President asked for schools to be reopened. Schools have since been reopened, but recently we've been reporting about COVID infection. And the Ghana Medical Association has come out strongly, asking government to close down schools because of the infection. What is your position on this? That Ghana Medical Association is calling on government to close down schools so that we can protect our children.
Honorable Chairman, I'm very pleased that my honorable colleague has asked me a question that is so dear to many on the hearts and minds of parents and teachers. I will say one thing. Countries that have open schools, you really have to look at the dynamics of every situation and measures that you put in place to protect the children. One important measure or indicator is ensuring that the school is not breeding grounds for the virus. To the extent that the school becomes a place where the children are safer compared to the community, then you do not close the schools. If you are able to ensure that protocols are followed, you are able to ensure that the school has the highest level of cleanliness and disinfection, sanitizing, then you are actually creating a safe haven for the children. So why do you close a safe haven? On the other hand, if the school is becoming a super spreader site, then of course you have to revisit the idea of school opening or closure. The virus is in the community. Can we make sure that the school being a very disciplined environment, can we ensure that it's safer for the children to be at school? If the answer is yes, based on what the Ghana Education Service is currently doing, supported by the Ghana Health Service, I will say that the schools are safer environments, and therefore, I will not say we should close down schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, in 2019, government promised to construct affordable housing for teachers in this country. What is the status of this project? How many housing units have been constructed so far?
Honorable Chair, I did not get the first part in terms of specifically where the government made a commitment.
I said in 2019 budget.
2020?
19 budget.
2019 budget.
Government promised to construct affordable housing for teachers specifically. For teachers.
No, I haven't seen it.
It's in the budget, please.
Honorable,
what is the...
Do you have it? Can you refer to it? I think Eric has the budget, copy of the budget.
We'll move to another one.
So move to another one. He will guide you. He will assist you. So
okay. Okay, I'll come back to you. Mr. Chairman, the next issue has to do with licensure exams. The newly trained teachers are compelled to write licensure exams, and it means those who are not able to pass don't get employment. This is a concern for parents and the students. Are you considering doing something about it? Students are calling for cancellation of this licensure exam. Do you agree with them?
Honorable Chair, licensure exam within the context of our tertiary education system is needed for two reasons. One, it helps you know which of the colleges of education are doing a fantastic job educating the youth who are going to be the future teachers of the country. In addition to that, it also allows you to assess the competence of the future teachers. Based on the data that have been I am privy to, the teachers are doing very well in terms of the pass rate the first time, and then they have the second time. Some do it about 3 times, and then they pass it. So, Honorable Chair, I believe the licensure exam at this point is performing a very important function. So I will not advocate for the cancellation of the licensure exam, which is something that the Education Regulatory Bodies Act prescribes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the honorable nominee is quoted to have said that there will be no review of PTA's participation in pre-senior high school. There will be no review of PTA, Parent Teachers Association, participation in there will be no review of Parent Teachers Association participation in pre-senior high school. Mr. Chairman, PTA has been with us for a long time. When we go to most secondary schools, they support in the infrastructure provision. With the advent of pre-senior high school, government stopped PTAs from support, provision of infrastructure in the schools. That's why you said that there will not be review of PTA participation in pre-senior high schools. Will you consider this your position? Because they support infrastructure in our senior high schools.
Honorable Chair, maybe what I said has been taken out of context. Honorable Chair, PTAs are a very important part of our education system. What was not allowed to happen with the advent of pre-senior high school was levying of students. Before pre-senior high school, parents paid what was called development levy. And in addition to that, they paid for electricity, water. All those things were paid by parents. With the advent of pre-senior high school, the government decided to absorb all these fees that were levied against the student that parents were paying, whether it was electricity, it was water. Government absorbed, and government also absorbed what the PTAs were charging as development levy. So, the question is, if government has absorbed the development levy, PTAs can use that money to complete uncompleted building, because this is the money that parents were being levied for development in the schools. And if the government is paying, why should the parents be levied again? So PTAs have a central role to play in our schools, and nobody has said that PTAs should not exist in our secondary schools. What we have said is that you cannot levy the children again because the government has absorbed the development levy.
Mr. Chairman, I earlier spoke about affordable housing promised by the government. Actually, it was
yes, I'm allowing you.
2017 budget, page 589. With your permission, I read. Government recognizes that quality teaching is critical to the provision of quality education. Our policy to improve educational outcomes will therefore be teacher-centered. Over the next 4 years, we have programs to support and motivate teachers to discharge their duties effectively through affordable housing scheme for teachers. Government will engage with NACS, NAGRAT, SNIT, and other housing delivery agents to facilitate the provision of affordable housing scheme for teachers across the country. The government is in its 5th year. How many affordable houses have you built? for teachers in this country because it says in the next 4 years. And the next 4 years is over. This is 2017. 2017. 2017. 4 years is over. How many housing units have you built for teachers in this country?
Honorable Ahi, what was the word? That government will build? That was your question. The government said it will build houses. Is that what you asked?
Within 4 years.
Is that what you asked?
It will build affordable housing for teachers. The 4 years has elapsed. I'm asking how many housing units has the government built for teachers in this country?
Honorable, please ask.
Honorable Chair, I'm grateful to my honorable colleague for reminding me of something that was said in 2017. I'm going to find a copy of my budget statement, and this is something I can, somebody who cares about teacher welfare, I'm going to be a champion of that. And then I'll come back and report to you. But at this time, as you put it, 2017, I think it was prophetic that we're going to be 2021. That's the 4 years. But I'm going to pursue this and follow up. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, he's a nominee telling us you have been in the ministry for 4 years.
Honorable sir,
and this promise
Honorable
was done 4 years ago.
4 years, he was not the minister.
He was a deputy minister.
Yes, but he was not the minister.
Mr. Chairman,
in any case, we don't do deference to you, sir.
This is supplementary.
You don't do deference to you. What you read and the question you asked are not the same.
What?
What you read said it will facilitate accommodation, but you asked government will build. They are not the same.
No, the government said you build affordable housing for teachers.
Yeah,
Should I
but
read it again?
it doesn't mean it will build. It will high rent.
Let me read it again. Mr. Chairman, the government didn't provide this paragraph in vain. The government understood when it says it was build affordable housing. So if the minister is telling us that nothing has been done so far, so be it. You haven't done anything. In the last 4 years, not even 1 unit has been built. Is that what you mean? It's a supplementary question.
Honorable Chair, I am going to look for a copy of the budget statement, read it carefully, and as I said, I'm very concerned about teacher welfare, so it's something that I'll follow up on. Honorable, thank you.
So what I'm saying is that in the last 4 years, you didn't build, you couldn't facilitate any affordable housing as promised in the 2017 budget. Is that what you're telling us? You are not going to look for your budget to cross-check whether you have been able to build some or not, or you have facilitated some or not. Is that what you are telling Ghanaians? Supplementary question. Is that what you mean?
Honorable Chair.
I thought I had cut you off because I was not paying attention. You are taking advantage to Very well, please answer the last one from him.
Honorable Chair, as you rightly pointed out, I was a deputy minister, and of course, I was at the ministry. But all that I'm saying is that this is something I'm going to seriously look into, so that what could not be done, we can take steps to make sure the right thing is done for our teachers. Thank you, sir.
Yes, there's nothing here. Who else? Yes, Honorable Ajari. Ranking member, you'll be last. That's some advice.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable nominee, on teacher licensure exam, I listened to one of your interviews and you indicated that whether you are coming from a private college of education or a public college of education, the common denominator is that exam. And that once you pass that exam, the Ghana Education Service will post you to a school. As I speak to you right now, your last posting was without graduates who have the teacher licensure exam but attended private colleges of education. Why is that so? And what plans are you making to ensure that graduates from private colleges of education with the teacher licensure exam will be posted? Thank you.
Honorable Chair, when I get the opportunity to serve this country as a Minister for Education, this is an issue that I'm going to look into. Because I know that during the past few years, those teachers were posted. So I'm going to talk to Ghana Education Service so that they can brief me on the current status of teachers who went to private colleges of education. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you very much. Next is the reopening of schools. I am of the opinion that we really put our children at great risk when schools were reopened. Because you agree with me, Honorable Nominee, that schools reopened before nose masks were sent to the schools. As I speak to you right now, a lot of schools, I am not even zeroing it to Techima North, that is not fair, the whole Ghana. A lot of schools don't have even the thermometer gun, they don't have Veronica buckets, they don't have sanitizers, but our children are in school. What are you going to do to ensure that students or our children in schools are safe in terms of the PPEs and the other things that they need to ensure that the viruses do not spread in the schools, like Veronica buckets and the things that I've indicated?
Honorable Chair, I spoke with the Ghana Education Service, and they assured me that in few instances where delivery was going to be a challenge, the military was involved in making sure the items get to the intended destination so that our children will use the necessary PPEs and be protected. The moment I leave here, I'm going to follow up because I was, and with the briefing given to me, I was assured that initially there were challenges, but the military stepped in and they have distributed the PPEs to schools across the country. So I would definitely look into this issue that you have brought to my attention today.
My last one, and it's a follow-up. We are all trying to make sure that our children are safe in schools. For us, you are trying hard to help children in public schools. Take notice that there are children in private schools too. Don't have the idea of private schools in Accra. Think of private schools in the deprived communities. They are not the middle class private schools that you see here. So I'm encouraging you to look at private schools in deprived communities and also assist them in the PPEs. Thank you.
Honorable Chair, distribution of PPEs since the beginning of school opening was done across the board to all schools, whether you are public or private. So that is what has been done over the whole academic year when the abbreviated openings were done with the final year students and then second year students at senior high school level. Private schools were part of the distribution list, and it will continue to be so. So far the PP is concerned, and this is what has been directed by the President, and we intend to carry through with that order, ensuring that every student, irrespective of whether they are in private school or high school, will have access to the necessary PPEs for self-protection.
Yeah. As a unit before ranking member, that's what I'm advising. Or other way. Very well.
All right. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable nominee, I'll start with a question that you have attempted to answer twice. The first one was by Honorable Lante Vanderpoy, and I think Chairman also came with a supplementary. I am, first of all, a trained teacher, and I was a leader of one of the teacher training unions at the time. And I do know that we have only guidelines with GES. And for me, the question that was asked relates to whether or not we have a policy for posting teachers in this country. Because what I know, that is the practice, is that the GES have guidelines where it is suggested that 60% of teachers who graduate are posted to the primary, 40 to JHS, and the regional directors are to send to the districts with the most need, and district directors are to assist with accommodation, consider teachers with health problems, females to be posted in urban areas, and male new teachers who did not choose the regions they are sent to also be sent to towns. I mean, these are just guidelines. But then the issue of L1 to L2, instructing using the local language, comes to play if there is a policy. Because in that policy, then it will show how teachers who understand instruction to be done in the L1 to the L2 should be posted. It will guide the posting of teachers, so to speak, because you want to improve the teaching in the local language, so to speak. So the question to you is, do we have a policy that guides teacher posting and, in some cases, recruitment, let me put it that way, of teachers in this country?
Honorable Chair, a comprehensive teacher policy is at the final stages with various stakeholder consultation and participation, and is being done through the National Teaching Council. So very soon, that policy will then dictate the issues that you have brought up. So it's very important that we ensure the speedy development and finish to this policy, so that all these issues that you brought up can then be taken care of under that comprehensive policy.
There's also a problem with teachers who have gone for further studies, and the problem with readmitting them into GES. We also have issues of teachers seeking promotion, upgrading. The reports and the text messages and letters I have gotten from colleagues and teachers is that for so many years now, you have not upgraded teachers. Has it come to your attention? And working at the ministry as a deputy minister, what did you do to improve the situation? And how do you intend to even make it better if you get the approval of this House?
Honorable Chair, I know that from time to time, teachers will WhatsApp me, some will come to my office. But I also know Ghana Education Service are doing a very much better job at this time in terms of issues about promotion, even the new promotion exam format, which has been implemented very well by them, and it's winning accolades in terms of how they're able to go through it fast without all the subject panels and interviews. But we can always improve on these issues, and I'm sure most of these items that you brought up here is also going to be dealt with under the comprehensive teacher policy. And once we have a policy, then we'll be able to track performance very well. I will tell you one thing. Teachers play a critical role, the most important role in our education process. And anything that we need to do to ensure that the bottlenecks that may be in their way are removed so that they can focus on teaching is something that I'll commit myself 100% to. You appear to me as somebody who knows a lot about these issues, and please understand, God willing, if I'm the Minister for Education, I'll be calling upon you a lot. Because if we can remove those bottlenecks, then we are freeing the teachers to really teach and impact our children positively. So these are issues that are of concern to me. If a teacher is not satisfied with the process, that means it's diminishing his ability to become the best teacher that we want him to be, and the nation will pay a price for it. So thank you for bringing these issues to my attention, Mr. Chairman.
Now, my second substantive question. Child Rights International has come up with a piece suggesting that in the last 4 months, about 1,700 students have tested positive for COVID-19. Some medical experts, like the GMA president in Ashanti region, have called for or have suggested that schools be closed down. Reading commentary on social media, Parliament and parliamentarians were not spared when the Speaker announced the suspension of Parliament, and many parents wondered why we thought it necessary to suspend Parliament that allows schools to continue. What is your understanding of the spread as reported by Child Rights International in the schools and government's insistence that the schools must remain open?
Honorable Chairman, I think I have the privilege of answering this question before, so I will answer again. I think what I said when this question was posed to me a few minutes ago was that to the extent that we can ensure that the schools are clean and PPEs are supplied and we are following all the protocols, to the extent that the schools can be a safer environment than the home or the community, then I will say schools should remain open. That is why the following of the protocols, ensuring that students are going through routines, teachers are being trained so that the protocols become second nature to the students, ensuring that there's a lesson unit that is taught about disease spreading, especially with reference to COVID-19. These are critical issues, and also ensuring that the new dashboard that we are developing for schools include opportunity for timely reporting of places where there's a suspected case, reports are being made. To the extent that we can do all these things and we are ahead of the disease in terms of decision making, I'll say the schools become the safest environment for the children to be. On the other hand, if we are not able to do that, then it makes sense to say, let's close down schools. But at this point, I think Ghana Education Service, Ghana Health Service are in partnership, and they are doing a very good job in terms of ensuring that we can get ahead of the virus and make the critical decisions that affect the children in the schools. And with that, I will not say schools should be closed down.
Well, I wish I knew you were going to answer this question this way. Maybe I would have also arranged for a video to be played. It was just sent to me, but maybe I can show it to you so you see what the real situation is. You have painted the ideal picture, but the real situation on the ground is that even where some sort semblance of PPEs are provided, children do not know how to use them. In the face of the reality that even where semblance of PPEs are provided, they are either misused or disregarded, you still think that GS is doing a good job and schools must remain open.
In the face of the reality that you have rightly painted and pointed out, it creates a sense of urgency for me to make sure the right thing is done to keep our children safe. And in the face of that, it gets me angry that why is it that we are not doing the right thing when we know the right thing to be done? So you create a sense of urgency for me to go about my work with all due diligence to make sure that children are protected. And that includes my team at Ghana Education Service and my team, not at the headquarters region, at the district, everywhere where we find our team members. Everybody should be fully conversant of the fact that we cannot do our work that way. So when you show that to me, it does not tell me that we should close shop. It tells me that I should step into this job knowing that there's a lot to be done and we need to protect our children, understanding that COVID-19 and education has become strange bedfellows. And those of us in charge of education must do our work well to ensure that we protect the children and at the same time ensure that they have quality education.
Now, what expectations should students have of you if you get the nod to become the Minister of Education, when only some few weeks ago a proposal to have their fees suspended saw you
Honorable
rather...
Member, you came in late.
No, it's
All
in a different
two
form.
questions have been asked.
In a different form. It may be related to the matter, but the question is different, Mr. Chairman, with all due respect. Yes. So I'm saying that what expectation do you think students should have of you when a few weeks ago a motion in this House that requested government to suspend or waive fees of tertiary students, your argument seemed to have favored school authorities and not the students, because you made the point that school authorities you spoke to said that was not their priority. But I believe at the time that was a priority of students. And if that was lost on you, what expectation should they have of you?
Students should know that I'm the teacher-in-chief when I become the Minister for Education. Some of them will see me in their classrooms. But besides that, the person that you are talking about happens to be somebody who a month ago paid the fees of 30 students to go and pursue engineering at UMAT. So if you're talking about expectation of me, they should expect to see a Minister of Education who dearly cares about them, whose doors will always be open to them. And if you like it, I'll say the windows will be open to them. I want to dialogue with stakeholders, ensure that their views will be respected. So the expectation that this country should have of me is that of an education minister who is fully committed to meet their needs and who, when the need arises, may even pick up the marker and teach in the classroom, because I see myself not as just a minister for education, I see myself as a teacher-in-chief of this country if I get a chance to become the Minister for Education.
My last question relates to licensure exams and posting of newly trained teachers to do national service. Is it the case that the licensure exams have indeed been suspended or, withdrawn from government plans, as announced by the then Minister of Education before the elections? And after 1 year of national service by teacher trainees who initially protested against it, what has been the feedback as Deputy Minister, as you were then, as you then was?
Honorable Chair, the outgoing Minister for Education never announced the suspension of licensure exams in this country. I never heard it, and he never said that licensure exams have been suspended in this country.
He never did? Okay. Well, he'll be appearing before us, so fine. Thank you.
Very well. Any more from here? None? Yes, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, congratulations to my brother, the Honorable Dr. Yaose Duchum. If you come with me less than a minute, we can get this out of the way for the accuracy of our records. Page 2 of your CV, the duration of your employment, Deputy Minister, it should be 2017 to 2021, not 2020. And we would need your permission to effect that correction at page 5, all the entries. It should be up to 2021, not 2020. And page 6, you will agree with me that the President of Ghana Association of Southern California, 1996 to 2000, is not a professional body. So we'll put that under a different categorization. So we are done with that. Let me quickly move to my first substantive question, which will focus attention on academic freedom. Over the last 4 years, it appears, listening to many in the intelligentsia, the academic community, they say that there seemed to have been an assault waged on academic freedom and institutional autonomy. What is your position on the public university bill? Are we to see you pursue that unpopular, rather obnoxious bill? Are you going to pursue it? Public university bill.
Honorable Chair, the public university bill, which the universities and the outgoing minister have had some dialogue on, changes were made in various sections, and we are still dialoguing. So when God willing I become the Minister for Education with your help, I will continue the dialogue and bring finality to it so that we can all move on and ensure that the universities perform their rightful role in socio-economic transformation of this country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
A follow-up on academic freedom and institutional autonomy, a classic case of University of Education, Winneba. A lot has happened in that institution, which has dented its image as far as its world-class academic center of higher education is concerned. Are you aware that the latest effort to resolve the impasse there, which was chaired by the respected Venerable Sir Justice Dennis Ejay, Justice of the Court of Appeal and the Dean of the School of Gimpa? On that committee was also Professor Jofus Anamwa-Mensah, former Vice Chancellor of the University of Education, Winneba. You know, he chaired the last education reforms. And Dr. Abna Asumeni, they concluded that the removal of Professor Avoke was wrongful. Those are the words of the committees. I have a copy of the 42-page report which they issued, that it was wrongful. It did not follow the Constitution and it did not follow the statutes of the university. Confirming what former President Rawlings, as you recall, God bless his soul, he issued a statement calling it an injustice, the removal of Professor Avoke, replacing him with Professor Afubroni. You are aware the Yoko report has also cleared Professor Avoke. How do you intend to address these injustices at the University of Education, Winneba, as all of these reports have confirmed, the latest one being the Sir Justice Dennis Ejay report? And I'm glad that the Honorable Deputy Majority Leader is here, who is very conversant with these matters.
Honorable Chair, I've heard my colleague loud and clear in terms of the issues raised. I'm not a lawyer, but I can read legal reports. So God willing, when I take over, these are issues that I'll delve into, become more conversant with the issues, and I think that is what will help me know how to proceed. At this point, I did not carry the tertiary schedules or schedule like you were lucky enough to have done when you were at the ministry. I was playing with the children, but now as a minister, I have to play with the big boys, and I have to be able to dive into this and see what is going on. and I'll be able, with advice from the outgoing minister and others who are conversant with the issues, I'll be able to know what to do with the issues that you have raised at this appointment committee hearing.
The second substantive matter I want to move to relates to the latest World Bank Human Capital Index report. It makes for grim reading and worrying reading indeed. Ghana was last but one in the rankings in the world. The reporters, you know, measured quality of learning in schools. And according to the report, we were amongst the 5 worst performing countries in the world. With a score of 307, only Niger helped us to escape the last position. Mali, Sierra Leone, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Niger are the 5 last performing countries, or worst performing countries, with a score of 44%. This Human Capital Index report reveals that quality at the pre-tertiary level, which is a department you headed, has taken a hit. And that if we are to get to the levels of countries like Singapore, which is having a score of 88, we will have to adopt a paradigm shift and change strategy. Are you aware of this report? And what will you do to reverse this horrendous performance by Ghana?
Honorable Chair, I'm fully aware of this report. I've gone over it many times. And I'll tell you one thing. As a nation, we have to come to the point where we see the relationship between education and socioeconomic transformation, and where the report like this places us. When you talk about a human capital index of 0.44, it means 56% of your human capital is being wasted if you do nothing. So when you talk about the low-performing schools, 10,000 of them, with Gallup bringing in funding so that we can fix those schools, those are attempts to fix the 0.44 human capital index issue. But we need to do more. You know about the SIP, Secondary Education Improvement Project, that my honorable colleague and your minister did a very good job at. That has helped us with all the intervention our minister also did to produce a mathematics score of about 65%. So what it tells us is this: if we are focused and we are determined, change will happen. So as the change happened with additional financing for SIP, with the initial financing from you and the work we did, and we saw the improvement in the same vein. Gallup, if we focus our efforts in ensuring that we can improve work that is going on in those 10,000 low-performing schools, we'll be able to move things up. But yes, I come into this position with a greater sense of urgency, understanding that even in the midst of COVID, the world is not waiting for us. We have to do whatever it takes to make sure you create a more vibrant and robust education system that will stand the test of time. And my honorable colleague, you know I'll be leaning on you from time to time to work together to ensure that we can transform our education system for the benefit of ourselves and for posterity.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to come to the handing over notes of the ministry. I have gone through.
This is your fourth question. So
this is my third.
So please do your fourth and fifth, and then I'll let go.
I'm grateful, Mr. Chairman. So the 391-page handing over notes, I have read them. To my surprise, it appears you have changed the format this time. There are no outstanding obligations, financial obligations. Why is the report silent on that? Because I know, for example, that There are matters to do with 840 pickups, for example, that you are not done paying for, 250 buses. The 20 STEM centers have not been paid for fully. All of these outstanding obligations, your handing over notes are silent on them.
Honorable Chair, it happens to be the handover notes that I'm going to be receiving. So I'll put a question to the right person when I'm getting the handover notes. It's not mine.
I didn't hear you. If you can, you're saying you haven't seen the handover notes? Honorable Osler, can you allow the nominee to? I want to hear him rather, not you. It's not your turn, please.
Honorable, he says that when we approve him, he will receive it. Now he hasn't received it.
No, you receive it during the transition. But Parliament has received it, and finally, in this handy, leader, you want to, okay. Finally, in this handing over notes, it is revealed that 11% of free SHS students don't take up the opportunity. 11% just stay home, which is quite a staggering number, and should avert our minds to probably other factors, that beyond just fees, there are other real considerations that we should be looking at, and that looks like our fixation on just fees is not only a matter of affordability, that there are other factors that are mitigating against 100% universal enrollment. Are you aware of this development, and what policy initiatives, if given the nod, will you pursue to address this gap?
Honorable Chairman, I'm fully aware of the 11% issue. I think there's a need for a more serious community effort in making sure that the things that some of us may take for granted, that some children may not have, they can be supported. For example, we'll take it for granted, oh, you can just buy a trunk, you can just get a chop box. For some families, that is a huge investment. So I think what this helps us to do is to begin to look at what we need to do to ensure that those who are coming from some very deprived communities have some kind of support, so that when you offer them the opportunity, they will grab it and run with it. Thank you.
Yes.
No, we are closing.
Well,
What time?
yes, Deputy Leader.
Honorable nominee,
It's going to be leadership.
tertiary education.
No, today
In the wake of this COVID, there has been a strong suggestion for government to make some interventions. We are aware of the scholarship secretariat window that has been opened. We are also aware of the student loan scheme window with this no guarantor policy. But what Ghanaians do not know is whether or not the fee structure as it is now, government is already absorbing some aspect of it. So kindly enlighten us on that. Is it that whatever fee charged, itemized, various facility user fee is 100% to pay by student, or that government has already absorbed a chunk of it, leaving that to be paid by the students?
Honorable Chair, the issue of fees, if you really look at the amount of the budget that goes into the expenditure structure of the universities, about 90% will be expenses related to faculty remuneration. Consequently, when you talk about academic user fee, you are not talking about fees that are going to be used in paying professors compared to the private universities setting. So yes, you can say that the government is already paying 90% of the fees that the student will have paid, because about 90% of the expenditure of universities are that for faculty and for staff. And in education, that is the norm. If you go to secondary education level, if you look at the budget structure, you're going to see 75% to 85% is for the personnel who are there. So when you pay academic user facility fee, you are not paying that to pay professors. So when you look at the fee structure, it is not geared towards payment of fees as you would in a private university setting. So yes, the government is paying a huge amount of money to take care of students for the benefit of the country. And wherever you take...
Also come to this issue of fee paying. Fee paying. And by way of some standards, he would not get the opportunity into mainstream, yet to be given an option to be part of school fee paying. That student from a deprived community push the universities to ensure equity without they seeing you as interfering in their independence.
Honorable Chair, I want to thank my honorable colleague for the question. That be careful so that they don't think you're interfering. But I think what is fair is fair. What is injustice is injustice. And what we need to do is be able to dialogue more to ensure that if you have a student like that, most universities have need-based scholarships. So they can do well to target those students who come from deprived communities or disadvantaged backgrounds, gotten admission to pursue medicine, and cannot go because it has been classified as fee paying. I think what we need to do is to make sure that whether we have scholarship programs targeting them or out of the university's own need-based scholarships, such students will be supported and not be turned away from programs of their dreams.
Yes. So, Honorable Nominee, let's come to private education, those preparatory schools that we have. They don't teach Ghanaian language. GIS, SOS, Lincoln, name them. They don't teach Ghanaian language. You have resident diplomats who may come on a duty tour 5 years, 4 years. Their children being educated here. And we want some adaptation, some cultural assimilation. Even Ghanaian children in these schools. I heard my colleague Neil Lante even raising the question even with public schools, where Ga teachers, is becoming a problem. But you and I know that we cannot allow that freedom in those preparatory schools. Can you initiate a dialogue aimed at, I don't want to say giving them the option, a dialogue aimed at, getting them to appreciate the fact that learning our culture, our values, which include our language, is very necessary for their curriculum.
Honorable Chair, my colleague is encouraging me to begin a dialogue, and I will so do, because I think it's to the benefit of the children. When the children are able to speak an African language, wherever they go in the future, they are going to turn back and say, thank you for giving me that opportunity. So I think it's something that I'm going to pursue vigorously because it's not something that will help the students. It will make them better citizens for this global community. Thank you.
I beg the honorable leader, please.
But I'll be mindful. Honorable Napo and what he has achieved, you readily measured your shoe size to be equal without appreciating the euphemism of it. And then when the Honorable Blackwell was on, you were being helped when he got to handing over notes. I refer you to page 2 of your handing over notes, page 2. And how I expected you to have said the same thing in respect of handing over notes. Hear these words, your own words. Supported the ministry in the implementation of free senior high school. Not even support the president, supported the minister in the implementation of double track system, not the president. So, okay, CV. This is your CV. So how I wish you had also said that you supported the minister to write the handing over notes as part of your CV. Is that an observation? Is that an observation? But there's some fumigation work going on at the ministry. At what cost is it? What phases? What is the relationship? Fumigation. There's some fumigation work ongoing at the ministry, particularly in public schools. What's the nature of it and what's the cost of it to the state?
Honorable Chair, I will gather the information for this committee. I don't have it with me here.
When you have it, do share it with us through the chairman of the committee. I can understand you are being elevated and promoted by President Akufo-Addo from deputy minister to minister. We don't intend to hold you for the work of your minister, the Honorable Napo. But there's this report of Measures Bluegrass, supply of mathematic instrument, SMI, math sets, has all arrived in the country. The math sets that were so imported, for which you came to Parliament for some grant of tax exemptions pre-COVID, have they all arrived? And have they all been distributed? And to where? Which institutions?
Honorable Chair, I'll submit a detailed report on that to the committee as well.
All right, that's appreciated. Now, on your CV, the Honorable Blackwell has done that. And there are wide disparities in the provision of quality relevant education between public and private schools and rural urban schools. What will you do to address that? To ensure equity in the provision of relevant quality education at the various levels of education.
Honorable Chair, issues of equity is something that the ministry is confronting and something that we need to deal with. Yes, disparity between rural children and urban children. One major disparity between the north and south of this country. These are issues that are of importance to me, and God willing, and with the help of the committee, this is something that I'm going to pursue vigorously, because when it comes to disparity, if you don't solve it, you are not creating a more robust education system for the country. So even the way you get students into various high schools, from junior high school, you have to be mindful of disparities, and also ensuring that there are quality schools everywhere in the country. You are able to solve some of the disparities in that fashion. So, Honorable Chair, this is something that equity issues are something that we need to look at, taking a look at some of them, because I was fortunate enough to be at the ministry for 4 years. And as I said, These are issues that we need to take a look at. I was looking at my data and saw the drop in performance at WA Senior High School, and it's something that I'm going to take on board as to why there is that disparity and why performance at that school is dropping across the board in all the subject areas. These are things that concerns me. I love data. So I'm going to look at data and see how best we can solve these challenges.
The Honorable Abrako referred you to the Public Universities Bill. What's important, and even by virtue of Article 103 and in particular 106 of the Constitution, I need your assurance that you would not interfere as minister with the letter and spirit of the Constitution and guaranteeing academic freedom in Ghana.
Honorable Chair, my style is not interference, and my style is collaboration. My style is communication. My style is come and let's work together to make sure we can reap dividends for this country. And that is what I intend to do.
And that, as important as a Public Universities Bill, we would be assured that whatever decisions you would be taking will require and submitted recorded report of extensive stakeholder consultation to guide any policy decision of government. Can I have that assurance?
Honorable Chair, there has been stakeholder consultation. I intend to continue, and I intend to make sure we'll come to finality on this issue.
Teachers who have gone on steady leave to improve themselves as in their quality and to improve the work they do since 2019 have not been promoted. Is that the case? And what will you do to promote those teachers deserving of their promotion after their steady leave?
Honorable Chair, I'm not aware that for 2 years teachers have not been promoted. I know Ghana Education Service is working very hard on these issues, but it's an issue that is of concern to me. A teacher who has not been paid his due is not a teacher who gives up his best. And therefore, there's an issue that I've taken note, and I'll make sure I get to the bottom of it when I get to the ministry. Ghana Education Service will have to give me a report, and I'm going to track that on bi-weekly basis to make sure everything, anyone due promotion has been promoted, so that they will work hard for us. So it's something that I intend to follow through on in terms of my promise to my honorable colleague.
The President at the final funeral rites to bid farewell to Jerry John Rawlings with his dedicated excellent service to Ghana, even though said Jerry Rawlings himself late had said that he wanted to be remembered in the hearts of people. The President announced that he still was consulting with the family to name the University of Development Studies after Jerry John Rawlings. You recall that he took his FAO prize and dedicated it to that university, which has contributed immensely to expanding access to higher education. You have a time limit to which you bring a bill here for that to be done if satisfactory consultations are done with the family and it's acceptable to them.
Honorable, rightly said, the President made a statement. I'll be consulting with the President on it to make sure what the President intends to do is fully executed as he so desires.
Chairman, may I request the nominee, and it's not just a challenge for incoming Minister for Education if you are approved by this committee and plenary, but a challenge imposed by COVID for major public sector reforms in Ghana generally. And I should think that myself and you are advantaged because our children can benefit even from private quality education because we can afford it. A number of Ghanaian children, those for which you just announced reopening, who have been home for 8-9 months, did not have opportunity for Zoom learning or Zoom exchanges. Some of them couldn't even afford access to a television to be educated. Compelling reforms of the provision of quality public education. What leadership will you provide?
Honorable Chair, issues about connectivity and how to support children is something that we need to have a better handle on. As I pointed out recently, that when you have a digital divide in the community, you are more likely to have education divide. It's something that we need to confront in terms of making sure children have access, and having access means now there are tablets and other devices that can enable them connect to resources that sometimes may even be free. So yes, as when God will I'm the minister, in these challenging times, those issues, IT issues are some critical issues that should concern me and concern my team to make sure we can really confront this issue. The good news is that the Ministry of Communication is helping with rural connectivity, and I think it's something that we need to tap into and form a critical partnership to make sure that children in communities where there was no access even to cell phones and other things, now that it's improving, how do we take advantage of it and make sure that students are benefited. The telcos partnership with them is very important. During the first week of the COVID, I know a number of telecom companies provide zero rating so that students, when they go to a website, learning management portal, they don't have to pay for connectivity. These are critical partnerships that we need to establish.
Minister, my other one would be one of a comment. I think that you have to revolutionize, probably in collaboration with the Ministry of Communication, how we expand the deployment of ICT technology to guide teaching and learning, not just for people, but only for teachers across the country as a necessary response to COVID.
Thank you for your advice, Honorable President.
And Chairman, I recall that under an African Development Bank facility, about $180 million that saw the expansion of Adan, Debopa, and a number of technical vocational institutions. One of the footprint signatures of your minister outgone, the Honorable Napo, was the expansion of technical and vocational education. What he normally doesn't tell the Ghanaian people, that was also initiated by the NDC, except that he got the advantage of those vocational institutions now being supervised by the Ministry of Education. I had visited the Honorable Minister Designate for Works and Housing, the one from Yangfu. I'll get a name for our purposes, the Honorable Nominee for Works and Housing. Yes, I visited Frida Prempeh's vocational training institution, and when I got back, I was inspired by it and wrote subsequently to Ministry of Finance. I'm aware that your minister have initiated it. It will require expansion, but it also requires collaboration. You see, what is lacking in this country is employability skills. So it is not just about training, about classroom. Are we equipping the young people with employable skills? That, I believe, is a policy thrust of the expanded access to technical and vocational education. Will you continue and expand that initiative?
Honorable Chair, I intend to do so. I'll continue and expand that policy.
Now you are tired, so you two you are giving short answers. Chairman, have you observed? Okay, my final one, Chairman, is a constituency-specific matter, and I'm borrowing from the minister, so that one is just to take note. You can choose to ignore me. In your CV, you say you lobby for projects and programs to serve your constituents. You want that to be in your CV? Go to page 2 of your CV. Page 2. And if I have my way, ask Chairman and expunge it from the record.
That is the code. Yeah.
Core, eh?
Duties of
and is that a core duty?
Yeah,
after enacting laws.
Lobby for projects, well.
Okay, that reminds me. So I'm not going to lobby you. There's a community in the Tamale South constituency, Kapaile. I need a senior high school of respect in Kapaile in the Tamale South constituency.
This is not lobby, this is instruction.
No, it's not instruction. I want expanded access to senior high school. And no. Oh. I say I won't use his words. I don't intend to use his words.
Honorable Chair, I know one good thing about senior high schools in Ghana is that irrespective of where it is located, it's for the whole country. So if a senior high school is built in my honorable colleague's constituency, it's also for my children from my constituency.
I'm not saying it for the first time. Your minister is aware. My letter has been at the ministry all these years. So I'm not saying it for the first time.
Because you didn't lobby.
Yes, I should think so.
Okay, Honorable Chair, I can assure you that as I've already indicated, even though...
Chairman, let me put it in context. There was a contract awarded for the commencement of work on Kapaile Senior High School. The contractor mobilized the site, and the change of government have affected the fortunes of quality education in Kapaile, which will serve Banvum, Yonda, Kamile, Bulipiala, and Nalong, quite a populous area in my constituency. Those who don't sleep in Kamville, they know themselves. So I want to end here, but saying that your enormous challenge is to how to support this country to respond to COVID. And to respond to COVID, what the Honorable Sohino observed, protecting children, ensuring their safety and security, dedicated and adequate deployment of PPS to protect people and teachers in schools, and to reform education as a response to COVID, and to guarantee that there can be seamless provision of education in Ghana if COVID was to stay. Chairman, I thank you for the opportunity, and I wish the nominee well.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, I'm just making a suggestion. I think the integrity gap is widening among the youth in the community. So I suggest to you that you find a way of institutionalizing ethics and values of integrity in our educational system. That's a suggestion. So we thank you for attending upon the committee. We have closed, please. So I'm happy you came after.
Honorable Chair, thank you for the opportunity to brought the committee members.
Right.
Truly appreciate it.
You will hear from us, but for now you're discharged.